This is so exciting. All right,
I'm
we are
excited.
live on YouTube, and I'm going to play a little bit of music to get us started.
Let's do it. Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody. Craig Elston, Chris Reed, Rafi Cantor.
Why'd we
It's
stop it?
fade
We
out.
couldn't.
No
I was trying
slider,
to
no
fade
fade
out,
out.
and it wasn't
You
it was
can't
not
do that. I'm
responding
gonna
to
pull
me.
something.
Yeah.
More quad and hamstring stretches. We are here and we are live for the first time on our YouTube channel, as well as with all of our patrons via our Riverside video channel. So it is exciting to be here. It's Friday, September 8th. We do this 12:30 Pacific. Maiden voyage in terms of taking this show, which has always been a live show that our patrons have been a part of, audio only on our Discord channel. And look, we're trying something different. We're calling up Eggy Rosario in the podcast sense. We're head, although I think YouTube is a little bit bigger prospect than Eggy Rosario. We're calling up Jackson Merrill, and in this case, what we're doing is we're putting the show out to the masses, but still with our patrons having the exclusive opportunity to come on the show via video or audio, and go ahead and interact with us. Rafi, have I explained everything right? I'm already confused.
Yeah, no, you got it. We have a live chat on our YouTube right now. No messages on it, so if anyone wants to make Padres Hot Tub history and become the first live chat, do you remember when Petco Park opened and it was like every little thing that happened for the first time in Petco Park, it had to be like a milestone. And Anthony 619 with the first comment calling up Profar.
Right.
So yes, we have indeed done that. So if you want to comment on our chat, you can do that. All you have to do is be subscribed to our YouTube channel. So once you're subscribed, that moment you can chat with us live. So everyone, welcome to our little experiment.
I have taken an extremely blurry photograph of the first comment, and it is now available as an NFT for $55,000.
OBO.
OBO. OB capitalized OBO.
Outstanding. Well, it is great to have a new set of free listening audience. And a reminder, the easiest way to support this show is on Patreon, patreon.com/ Padres Hot Tub. There are a number of benefits, and we're testing out which are the benefits that our patrons enjoy the most and which are the ones that they don't care about. And in this case, we're just seeing what's going on. September experiment. Let's take group therapy out to la gente and let's see how this show goes. So we have already some text questions that have been sent by our patrons to us on our Discord. We have the opportunity for patrons to signal to Rafi that they'd like to pop up on the show, and we will bring them up on the show. And you know how to do. If you're a patron that's watching on YouTube right now, you can go to the Discord and figure it out as well in the group therapy channel. If you need a tutorial, it's right there. The Padres still a bad club, heading to Houston on Apple TV Plus today, having dropped 2 out of 3 to Philly, having beaten the Giants 3 out of 4 before that. And gentlemen, plenty of different directions to go, but first I'll just open the floor wide and see what's on your guys' mind.
My Eggy Rosario rookie cards are absolutely doing the exact same in value as they were yesterday. But I am very excited. I love seeing young guys come up. So Eggy had a little bit of an arrested development this year. Really bad injury in spring training. He broke his leg. Doesn't get to play. He was staged to have a lot of playing time with Fernando gone. It was kind of his chance to get his career started. And I'm all about the stories of these players coming in and how their careers go. So hooray for Eggy Rosario. I don't know how much he's going to get on the field, but Manny's hurting. So it looks like another chance for our guy to get some at bats.
Yeah, I'm there's a lot of actually for a team that is middling and kind of flailing along to the end of the season. There's actually like quite a few things to talk about. There was an awesome piece that came out in the Athletic today, written by Dennis Lin, all about Ha-Sung Kim, his connection with Chan-Ho Park, and what he means to uh, just South Korean baseball in general. You know, there were a few quotes that stuck out to me, but one of them was Chan-Ho Park, while he was in Korea in a recent visit, said he thinks that the Padres have overtaken the Dodgers in terms of popularity in the country thanks to Ha-Sung Kim, which is huge. I mean, like the Dodgers were, bar none, the most popular team in South Korea for decades. So that shows the effect. He also mentioned potential interest from Jung-Hoo Lee, the star outfielder whose hitting profile in the KBO is quite similar to Ha-Sung Kim's before he came over, and potentially bringing him over to the Padres, which would be very exciting. And you know, you mentioned Profar already, that this is kind of going in the other way in the column, but you know, I thought I was on my way to something this morning and I saw a billboard on my drive. There's a Frasier reboot coming out. Have
Oh
you guys
yeah.
seen this? There's a Frasier reboot.
Yeah.
And I thought that our memories were a little bit longer than that. It's just like we're just recycling old material and stuff like that. And lo and behold, I boot up the Twitter X machine, and Jurickson Profar is back on the Padres after submitting. And I mean, like, the thing about Frasier is that at least that was 20 years ago that it went off the air. Like, Jurickson Profar was here like 9 months ago, and we're like, oh, remember Jurickson Profar? Oh, that was so good. Let's get Freak Jurickson Profar back. So if there's any barometer for the season so far, it's that I am seeing multiple messages about how amazing it is that Jurickson Profar is back. He's worth negative one.
How did you tie Jurickson Profar to Frazier? If anything, Drew Pomerantz is right there as a Boston reliever that's probably going to own a bar.
Yeah, probably already has a stake in one. Well, I mean, yeah, Profar's back and Gamel's gone, and we're gonna check in with the patrons of the restaurant to see if they've found a taste difference a little bit later on. I'm full tank mode right now, which, as we've talked about in past episodes, and if you're watching right now live for the first time, you have to understand how painful that is. I literally got rid of my Padres tank t-shirt that I had throughout the mid 2010s, proudly wearing at Petco Park. I got rid of that shirt in 2021 when Tatis was signed. But I want them to lose games. And as such, I'd like to see more players shut down, because the difference between baseball now and the baseball I grew up with is a 28-man roster in September as opposed to 40-man roster. You could just call up the whole AAA team basically when the season was over, and it would be very easy to say, give Jay Groom starts and you know, start Eggy Rosario or Taylor Colway or whoever the heck you want. But now the question is, who are you going to DFA if you want to bring up Jay Groom? You know, and that makes it a lot harder on the parent club to do some overt tankeroni. But nonetheless, whether it is or not, I'd like tankeroni with cheese. Like, let's get as many losses as possible. And look at this, Houston and the Dodgers stepping up to maybe set up a nice little spiral.
Yeah, the stars are certainly aligning for miserable ninth innings watching the Padres. Never gonna root for losses. I like the stadium's happy when they're winning. I'm happy when they're winning. But those draft picks are important, Craig. I want to see good stories from the individual players. Manny still wants to play, dude. He wants those numbers. Like, he's not leaving 5 home runs on the table this year if he can possibly do it. He doesn't care how many games it takes him. He's a numbers compiler. And you know, he seems to be the most ailing. So I don't know how likely it is you're getting him out of the lineup for my guy Eggy. The controversy seems to be Jay Groom. No Jay Groom. And he's a developmental arm that I'd really like to know what he is. The Padres seem to not really care to find out until next year's spring training. Does you think that has to do with clock? Like maybe they're like, Jay Groom's so
No,
amazing,
come
we want
on.
to
Oh, Jay,
control him for
we're saving a year of control of Jay Groom. No, let's release 2 weeks of control of Rich Hill.
Yeah,
Right,
man.
Rafi? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Let's just get. We've got this is one we've got an obvious place to put him on the roster.
Yeah, and I mean that's part of what kind of rubs me the wrong way so much about the Profar thing is that you're sacrificing Tirso or Nalis or someone else who could be coming up and getting real major league time with it's so valuable to have Major League Baseball that has zero stakes to develop people because that's what gets in the heads of a lot of like young guys as they come up. They get rattled because it's like it's anyone who's coming up to the Padres in 2024 is going to have the same mountain of expectations on them that the team did at the beginning of the season. And this is like this rare window that we have that we can take advantage of. So Rich Hill is obvious. I mean, he's probably done. Like he's cooked. Like I don't think any team can look at him and sign him next year. So what are we doing other than what we've been saying for a long time, upholding the pride of AJ Preller to not have to admit a mistake by just rolling him out there and touting his veteran leadership or whatever. So we should absolutely be bringing up Jay Groom to not be pitching on the moon for Christ's sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like that's the biggest thing. It's like his walk rate has absolutely exploded this year. He's got like a 7 or 8 ERA, I think, but none of the pitching data that we get in El Paso is like really that relevant. Like especially when it comes to throwing breaking balls. So I'm all for bringing up Jay Groom. Bring up like literally half the El Paso roster. I don't give a shit. Like we should be tanking.
AJ Preller could be being nice to Rich Hill. He could be being respectful and trying to be decent. But like you said, Rafi, the Orioles and the Reds, I think a big reason why they've been successful this year is both teams didn't have much expectations. The Orioles maybe a little bit because they had that run late last year, but there were no expectations for the Reds. Those guys were just up there playing loose and fun, getting their vibes on, and that's why they won.
We have a question in the chat, and I do feel obligated to answer it. Healing Cal asks, important question, did Craig fill out the opt-out survey? I definitely talked about it last week, and I had a meeting with the man, Jeff Bush, who I share my full season tickets with on opt-out day. And, we sat down in a booth and talked about it and looked at the numbers and talked about his experience because, it's partially his season tickets too. And the end calculus was to stay in for another year. There's an opportunity for us as Padres Hot Tub to leverage those seats, which we do throughout the season. And by the way, we'll continue to do in this final homestand. Never a better time to get free tickets than when the team's out of it in September in the Padres Hot Tub Discord. But also, Jeff really enjoys it, and the math has been okay so far. So gonna hang in one more year. I'm putting you on notice, Padres. If we just do a dunderhead version of this and come back older, more expensive, clunkier, and fail again and don't learn the lesson, then it'll be easy for me to leave next year. I'll be leaving on the wave of the backs of everyone else departing.
It's going to be 2.1 million. 2.1 million the year after. That's how many you'll get coming in 2025 if they roll it back with the same result.
Yeah, I agree. So it's a make or break year, and it's like really looking more and more like what we said at the start of 2023, Rafi, was just wrong. We said it would be the most consequential year in Padres history, and it could be that this is the one that sets up the one next year instead, because wait and see, right? One thing about the Padres, they can be a fairly tight ship at times. So let's see what these final 3 weeks have to bring.
Yeah, and we have a caller, Friar Groups, who wants to come up in a second. So I'll quickly say this. This is the Peter Seidler offseason. We're going to see I think especially if last season offseason was an AJ Preller offseason or the last however many offseasons. I mean, how many banners do we have hanging in the rafters of Petco Parks that we were the offseason champions? I mean, we can dust off the 2014, 2015 offseason champions banner if we really want to show our pride. But I think that like all eyes are going to be on Peter Seidler and see what kind of pressure he puts on the front office to make any changes after this team doesn't even finish 500, let alone, miss out on the playoffs. So shall we bring up Friar Groups?
Absolutely. And as we do, I just want to say shout out to my man Rory for being the first person to actually tip us inside the YouTube chat.
What is that?
Dearly appreciated.
What just happened?
All right.
So
here comes
excited.
Friar Goose.
I'm taking a picture.
I'm
of
imagining
that
it
too.
coming as 5 singles being tossed our way, and I appreciate it.
This NFT.
Hey, there he is.
This NFT is cheaper.
Can you guys hear me? Is this working?
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
it's
no?
working.
Maybe. Okay, there we go. Oh, wow. The first, you never know, guys. So, hey,
Your
this is really
video
cool,
is
guys.
better than all of ours. Like,
What? My 2016 Acer laptop is knocking you guys out. Yikes!
You are crushing.
I gotta tip you guys another 5. I'm gonna drop another 5 in the YouTube. So for you guys. So, anyways, guys, just yet another shout out to this season. The highlight for me this season has been PHT. You guys are bringing new stuff every single month, it seems. And just a big kudos to how well you guys have brought it together, because we got Craig, the OG, bringing the hot takes every single week. I appreciate that. Rafi with the stats. I didn't think I needed that. I didn't think I needed par, but we've got it, and I'm like, my life is better for that, right? I'm an engineer, actually. And we got Chris. Those shorts, Chris, the shorts you're putting out the last few weeks are like, awesome. Yo, don't have to get naked. It's all good. It's all good. It's fine.
Not those shorts. Not those shorts, Chris. Not those.
The YouTube shorts.
Okay, got it.
The YouTube shorts are really good. So, anyways, shout out to you guys. I have 2 questions for you guys. Right?
Okay.
So, I want to, as much as I want to keep things upbeat, I got into it with a guy on Padres Reddit the other day, because it was like a contest of when did you know this team was awful, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, did you know in August? Did you know in July? No, I knew from March. And then one guy literally said he knew from October of last year that this team was doomed. So I'm like, okay, let's not go down there. I don't appreciate Doomerville, but I've got some questions for you guys, okay? So number one, the consensus, the conventional wisdom seems to be that AJ is going to keep his job, right? Yeah. My question for you guys is, why would you think that's true? And I think the only evidence we have is that, Peter Seidler's comments a couple months ago that AJ's excellence. I think, I think people are saying, okay, well, since he said that, obviously AJ's not going to get fired at the end of the season. My question to you guys, do you guys think that's true? Is that the only thing that we feel that's holding AJ in his chair? Is that true?
Just real
because
quick.
Everything else would be, indicate the opposite. And Papa Pete would be the nicest hedge fund manager, we've ever seen, right? Ever. So that's one question. And my second question for you guys, and I'll pop out, is what if, humor me here, follow me here with this. What if one of the biggest issues we've seen this season, maybe it's not a lack of analytics, a failure in coaching, a failure of like a losing culture, right? Maybe that's not the issue. What if instead of figuring out the issue with WAR, wins above replacement, what if it's the VAR, vibes above replacement, that is severely lacking in this clubhouse? And we've seen it. I cannot get out of my head Peralta's comment in an article from a few weeks ago. You guys hate each other, right? Those guys, some teams on some of these they hate each other. So of course they're never going to play to their potential. They're never going to compete with us. For some reason, I can't get that out of my head saying, okay, well, that's the closest thing to an insider giving us some insights. If that's the real issue, stretch, I know, but that's the real issue. How would you address that? What if we've built Mount Crushmore on a shaky foundation of guys that just do not jive together? They are not bigger than the sum of different parts, right? How would you address? Those are my 2 questions, guys. Appreciate you guys. I'm out of here.
Great stuff, Friar Goose from down in La Ciudad de Mexico. And CDMX, our first spot for like a totally crystal clear video guest appearance.
Way to go, America.
Right. Friar Goose also, by the way, somebody who chimed in on all of our post-game shows throughout the postseason last year. Just a huge patron, and we thank him so much. Okay, let me go back to the first question.
Yeah, I got something on that real quick.
The Padres are going to set an attendance record this year and smash it. Rafi just talked about how the Padres might be Korea's team. They've made giant inroads in the Japanese market as well. They are a club that already had the Latin market to some extent with players like Machado, like Tatis. So from a holistic standpoint, the Padres have done a lot of things that Peter Seidler probably finds attractive. And if he is true to his word that he is somebody who absolutely craves stability in key leadership positions, I think you can take all of these things, mix them in with Rafi's bowl of 6-22, 0-11 in 1-run games, 0-11 in extra inning games, positive run differential for a losing team, and swirl that up, put it into the oven and bake a casserole of Keith Preller. It'll be okay. He's going to find the next Far East free agent in 2024 to help bolster the team because he's got those connections and he's built those inroads and he's going to follow that road in. And if the Padres can spend over a couple of their mistakes in 2024, then they've got a farm system that by 2025 should be able to fill in from the back. And now maybe we finally got that sustainable wheel that we want to see of churning out, products and churning out prospects and lesser cost players at the bottom of the roster. That would be my logical argument in favor what Seidler would say to keep Preller.
Mine is short. He's under contract till 2026. That's it.
I mean, going back to what Friar Groups said about Peter Seidler's comments, like he's like, besides Peter Seidler's comments, and I'm like, well, that is the meat and potatoes. Like, I think like we as baseball fans tend to only imagine things that have happened. It's hard to imagine the unimaginable. And so when the Padres started spending money all of a sudden, no one really could have thought that the Padres would continue to spend and continue to up the ante and sign Machado this huge extension and sign Bogarts, whether or not these were fruitful endeavors. No, I'm speaking for myself. I never imagined that we'd be spending this kind of money. So for Peter Seidler to turn around 2 months after saying AJ Preller's excellence and to, Logan Roy, time for a blood sacrifice, axe him would completely go counter to everything that we know and have heard about Peter Seidler. The guy who was burning sage at home plate with AJ Preller and Josh Stein 3 months ago. So, like, I do think that is a big answer, or is kind of like everything that we're operating on. And if he does get the axe, that is going back into more unimaginable territory. And then Peter Seidler becomes this like incredible enigma that I am like really intrigued by. So the second question was about vibes. Am I right on that?
Yeah. How do we fix the vibes? If the problem truly is just clubhouse dysfunction, key players dislike one another, I mean, the simplest answer is figure out who is the most unhappy and leverage them out of town. I mean, I think that is, again, the logical way you approach it. Like, is Manny fresh off signing a 10-year, $350 million extension where he got the bag that no one else would give him? Is he actually that deeply unhappy? Probably not. Is it Xander? Is Xander in his exit meeting going to say, God, if you could have told me this in December last year, I never would have signed? Like, okay, well, do you want to go to the, pick the team that the Red Sox want you back or whatever, like figure out a trade? It's unlikely, to be very honest with you. It's deeply unlikely. What is the thing that's likely, Rafi? Trading the one thing you could trade, Juan Soto.
Yes, that I think if the four of them are going to be dismantled, it's going to be that. When I read the Hustle and Kim article, by the way, I was like, oh, signing Jung-Hoo Lee and trading Juan Soto is an interesting idea. It's a very high risk move, but I could see it if you could get some pitching back. Anyway, that's a very quick aside. I think Xander Bogaerts, the vibes are bad because he's not playing well. I think if Xander Bogaerts was having a great, it's like, it's one of those like winning fixes everything things. And like, you can't like chicken and egg it. Like the vibes have to be fixed, I think, to get to the winning in some way. So it's hard to kind of like reverse engineer these things. But like, I think these guys would like each other a lot more if they were winning. And it's that whole thing of like victory has 1,000 fathers and failure is an orphan. Like that's really what it's like. As soon as everything falls apart, the fingers start pointing. Also, everything we're going off of is hearsay. Like what we know is what the players have been saying, which is that we get along, we like Bob Melvin, like this does suck, like we're sick of it too, like we're mystified, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to operate under the assumption that there are other things that this team can fix: analytics, advanced scouting, everything like that. And if the Padres make strides on that, which by the way, they have on the pitching side, I want to shout out Ruben Niebla. And like, there's a story that came out today about them working with some more labs to work on mechanics and everything. So, but once those options have been exhausted, if we still suck, then it's the vibes. Then it's absolutely the vibes.
I agree, Chris. And I think that what the Padres need to take from 2023, first and foremost, as a lesson, it's not looking at the big picture in the sense of, 6-22, positive run differential, we're unlucky. Therefore, lesson solved, move on. We did the homework in 2 minutes. We're done. Let's look at the mistakes in roster construction that were made at the beginning of the year. Now, we know now in retrospect, Austin Nola, whatever season he was going to have in his age 33 year in Major League Baseball, it was destroyed by a fastball to the face in spring training down in Peoria. So, it's a real shame. But the Padres rode an injured player for basically 3 months while he hit 140 behind the plate and Luis Camposano was hurt. They lucked their way into Gary Sanchez. I mean, lucked their way into Gary Sanchez. So if you tell me that the lesson, I'm just going to stick to this one spot and consider this an example of the types of things the Padres need to work on, right? If they evaluate catcher and the answer is, well, we can't keep Sanchez because the Twins are about to sign him to a 2-year, $24 million deal.
Yeah, with Blake
We're going
Snell.
to, right. Or exactly. The Mariners are going to sign him as a rider to Blake Snell's contract to come to Seattle. Then if their answer is, well, we're just going to run back Campy and Nola as our catcher platoon, then I don't think you've done serious work, because how can you count on these two players to add up to 162 effective Major League Baseball games? Camposano hasn't gotten through a month without having to get hurt so far in his career. Maybe that'll change. Nola hasn't exactly been the picture of stability behind the plate and could be out of baseball this winter. So I want to see more serious thought put into things other than, well, we'll just throw Jake Cronenworth to first. Well, Austin Nola is a starting catcher, and that is fine. Well, we can go with 3 outfielders for almost the entire season, and that won't affect us later in the year. No problem. Like center field. We'll just run back. No, we need to really look at the weak spots on this team and how they can be improved without breaking the bank, and see if those small improvements can turn around 2024.
Even you couldn't keep it to just catcher, Craig. It's impossible.
I know.
Like
I know.
You get into the Rich Hill, J-Man Choi deal, like all these useless, futile maneuvers that don't pay off. Now, AJ's under contract till 2026, guys. David Stearns was under contract with the Brewers, and they kind of fired him out of his job, at least changed it, and then kept him in-house so that he couldn't go work for the Mets for another year or whatever. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that something like that happens with AJ. That's what I'm rooting for at this point. Because like you say, Craig, it's almost malpractice knowing what we know about Nola now. And like Rizzo had a very similar situation, and it's funny that there was reporting that the Rizzo situation informed Nola. Rizzo had this, it got knocked by Fernando Tatis's Adonis, like concrete chiseled hip, and it hurt his brain, and he didn't know it for months and months, and it took advanced medical screening for the problem to get solved. And that's what clued up Nola. So maybe blaming the team isn't right, but I think we have to, because we were commenting and on the time that it was insane that Austin Nola had taken a fastball to the face and was coming back to play Major League Baseball 3 weeks later. And then he put up a 500 OPS for months and months, and the team did nothing. I don't know if it's ego or pride, Rafi. Like, I think you might be onto that, but I don't know AJ Preller. I've never met him. I've never talked face to face with somebody who even, interacted with him a bunch. So I don't know the guy. All I know is that the decision making's bad. I was talking with my veterinarian this morning. She's a massive Dodger fan. We have great baseball conversations. She's worried about her team, but she asked about the Padres, and she was like, is it just chemistry? Because outside looking in, that's the first answer that makes sense. And I've bandied it about too. And you can say Soto, you can say Bogarts, you can say Manny. You can say the young guy who's made several bad decisions that have kept him from playing baseball for the majority of his career, Fernando Tatis. You can put it at any one of those guys, but as an outsider, it's meaningless. What I see is people who are unprepared to win games. And whether that's the analytical thing, whether that's the vibes, having a coach fire them up or work their personalities to maximum potential, I don't know. I just know that we've seen the same product over and over and over with one season of winning. And I'm ready for changes. Like, let's do it. There's a risk in doing nothing.
There certainly is. And here's where one of the critical Fisher points is, and it's being pointed out by some of our folks in the chat as well. The Matt Carpenter situation has been kind of an indicator throughout the second half of the season that there's a schism of some sort between the manager's office and the general manager's office. Carpenter, who, by the way, and not for nothing, the last, half dozen times he's played, has played more like the Matt Carpenter they signed for, minus any power, in April. He's been getting on. He's been getting some hits. But there was like a 6-week stretch that he just didn't even play at all as you're not going to cut him, I'm not going to play him style standoff. And if we're really talking about vibes, maybe we're looking in the wrong direction. Maybe it's not any individual in the clubhouse. Maybe it's a rift that's within the group as a whole and the organization as a whole. And that really does lead to, I think, one of the most important and quickest questions for this Padres franchise. What are you doing with Bob Melvin at the end of this season? He has 1 year left on a contract. And I'm going to just say it like this, and then I'll open it up to you guys. If the answer is Bob Melvin's coming back on the 3rd year of his contract, I'm extremely worried about 2024. Extremely worried about 2024, because that's the type of political move that someone like AJ Preller can do to save his own ass as Bob Melvin comes into the next year and gets to that Bud Black 20-20, 22-23 start to the season. Boom, out of here. We've picked an easy target and someone we have no attachment to going forward. Melvin would have no authority in the clubhouse whatsoever. Half the team is signed to a contract eight times as long as his, So if you don't do something with Melvin this offseason, if the answer is nothing, I'm very worried about 2024. I would be happier with either a 1-2 year extension for Bob Melvin going into 2024, or for them to part ways. And there's and as much as I hate it, a different manager, but at least somebody that's going to be there. Just the 1 year hanging Chad Bob Melvin last year of his contract just seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah, I bring it up every time it comes up. If you're curious about this, go watch the scene in Moneyball where Art Howe tells Billy Beane he can't manage on a 1 year contract. It's one of my favorite scenes. Anyway, I want to point out to people, we have a poll going in our YouTube chat right now. Should the Padres extend Bob Melvin? Let us know what you think. We'll read the results of the poll in a few minutes after we're done with this segment. We'll kind of round it out as a button. My question for you guys is, who's the manager then who comes in? And I present two kind of archetypes of people. There's one who is the like the real villain manager, the guy who's going to be a hard ass
Ozzy
and
Guillen.
yeah, like maybe Ozzy, just someone who's going to be a heel that the guys can be like, fuck this dude, we're all playing together, like sort of thing, like, and can stand up to the personalities, et cetera, et cetera. My other theory is that you're going to have a situation where Manny and to a lesser just degree Bogarts and Tatis are going to be like LeBron choosing the manager and be like, this is our guy who's going to come in, and like really it's the guys in the clubhouse or in the clubhouse who run things. So I don't know like what other manager could come into this situation if they move on from Bob Melvin. Like I feel like it's either one extreme or the other. What do you guys think?
Well, I've just finished yesterday the last episode of Winning Time. So is Pat Riley an assistant on this staff?
Does he got a chalkboard? Let's do it.
Yeah, because if we've got an in-house alternative that could kick some ass, I'd be
Wait,
all
in that
down
scene
for
is
that.
Pat Riley not the head coach?
No, oh my gosh, and this is real life. A very brief sidebar. When Jerry Buss decided to fire Paul Westhead, Magic Johnson had made a public declaration that he needed to be traded. And then made it privately clear to Jerry Buss that unless he let Paul Westhead, who he was paying $1 million contract to be a head coach in 1981, let him go in the middle of the season when they had won 5 games in a row, that he would continue to publicly demand to be traded. Indeed, Dr. Jerry Buss fired Paul Westhead and then held a press conference at the Fabulous Forum where he stood in front of the LA media and declared that Jerry West would become the offensive coach of the LA Lakers and that Pat Riley would be the defensive coach of the LA Lakers. Then he started to take questions. He was very confused. He asked Jerry West to come up, and Jerry West is like, I work for Pat Riley. And that's how Pat Riley became the head coach of the LA Lakers, was by Jerry West deeming him such at a public press conference at the Fabulous Forum. And then Riley went on to be, a Hall of Famer.
So but that chalkboard scene, because I've seen that scene. I don't watch the show. Pat Riley, his status in that locker room is he's not the head coach in that scene?
At that point, that scene that you saw from this week's episode, he's the head coach, but he is still considered interimish. He's not the actual coach. West is still on the bench. And in that scene, he tells Jerry West to F off.
Yeah.
And then he digs into the players. And this literally happened. Then they rolled off like 20 something wins in a row and went on to win the championship that year. But yeah, so if Pat Riley's on the staff, then we've got an answer. But short of that, it's really tough, man. It's really tough. To me, the answer is that you give Bob Melvin a 1 or 2 year contract extension. That would be
really
my
think
course
Bob
of action.
Melvin wants to, like, he has looked miserable since May, June. Do you think he wants that?
I question though, because I think these guys care. First of all, Bob Melvin hasn't won a ring as a manager, in a coaching staff he has, but not as a manager. And dudes care about that. And if he is, let's say he moves on, I don't know if he's going to have a team where he has a better chance to win that ring in the next few years than with the Padres, despite all of it. So that's my number one thing of like why he would want to stay. I also think he cares because I don't think he wants this to be his like parting note of his career. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he could go on and manage elsewhere, but I think if he has interest to continue being a Major League Baseball manager, it's probably wise for the Padres to retain him. So I just want to know, we've had this poll up for 5 minutes. I'm just going to end it now with 17 votes. 71% of people said yes, the Padres should extend Bob Melvin, to 29% saying no. So there's a noticeable minority of people who do not want to bring him back, but most of these people watching now say yes.
I don't even know how to answer it. Like this offseason, status quo front office, locking it in for 3 more years. Don't love that. I
Yeah.
don't love that at all. I prefer Bob Melvin to AJ Preller if it's a keep one. We all know that. I That's hard, man. Craig Counsell is being bandied about as the hot manager, hot front office guy to be looking at.
Why would he come in to work under AJ Preller?
He wouldn't.
Why would he do that
Period. Why
after
would anybody
if the team let Bob Melvin
why
go
would
here?
anybody?
Correct. So what I'm thinking about, Chris, is far more politics than it is purpose, so to speak. Like, from the standpoint of why does Bob Melvin want to do it? Well, it's a major league job and one with a $250 million payroll attached to it, and over 3 million fans in the ballpark. There's plenty of reasons to be the San Diego Padres manager, and if he left, plenty of people would want to be the San Diego Padres manager in 2024, regardless. But a manager of his tenure, capability, and standing to lame duck him into a season, it's unfair to him. It's signing his death warrant, essentially. And even if you are signing him to a 2-year extension, understanding that you still will fire him in June next year if it's not going right, you still need to sign him to an extension to bring him back. To me, it's either you guys part ways and you deal with everything that results from parting ways with a great 3-time manager of the year after 2 seasons, one of which he took you to the NLCS. All right. Or you give him the ability to look at players on the team and say, yes, I'm benching you, and I'm going to be back next year too. You don't get to, you don't have the ability to override me. I've got the power. I'm going to be here.
This is some rotten King's Court gossip, and I don't mean amongst us, but I mean amongst the political things at play here. And it shows me a king that doesn't have his fucking court in order. Fucking hang some people, Peter Seidler. Put some people in the stocks.
Yeah. And Healing Cal in our Discord chat says, I can imagine half the manager candidates are out there going, I can fix him with this team. And I'm sure that is the case. I'm sure there are plenty of people who just say, please give me this opportunity. I'll do it differently. I'll figure it out. It's a glittering opportunity. There's a reason Bob Melvin wanted to leave Oakland to come to San Diego, of course. And multiple reasons, but from a baseball standpoint, especially. So, that's the whole thing. Like, I think what we're all hoping for would be for Peter Seidler to be looking at this going, I've got problems. But if he's not going to do that, then we have to think about the other ways in which the Padres could be a great team in 2024, because I'm not content to just go in going, for another win, 70-something win team in 2024. That is not okay. And I think there are ways for this team to be a winner and a championship contender next year.
Yes, I agree. There's some interesting manager candidates being shouted out in our YouTube chat. Mark Loretta is being which feels a little bit like bringing up Jurickson Profar right now. It's just like, oh, remember Mark Loretta? Oh, he was good. He's a guy who has been in the front office and people respect, but I think we would sooner see if we're going to see a former Padre, it would probably be Will Venable, because he's currently associate manager, which is a new thing I've never seen. It's the closest thing I've ever seen to like naming someone as heir apparent, as opposed to just them just being the bench coach. But he's associate manager to Bruce Bochy right now in Texas, who they're going through a little bit of which is what by the way, I have the receipts in my fantasy baseball chat to say, make Will Venable the bench coach or make Will Venable the associate manager or whatever when they brought in Bob Melvin. But I think that's more likely than someone who doesn't have any, managerial or bench coach experience.
Yeah, he's not doing the nothing experience move again. Like the cool front office person who's hip with players. That's not happening.
Right.
And again, it's just is AJ Preller really going to hire another manager? That's the
I
like
know,
we
dude.
can't get away from that
get
question.
past it. My brain won't let me go. Wait, what? Same thing? Same
Yeah.
administration? We're changing
Yeah.
cabinet secretaries? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's get to some text questions that we have that were left for us by some of our patrons who couldn't be a part of the show today. I'll go in reverse order. First one, maybe quick. Family asks, memes aside, is Profar maybe an actually good depth piece to sign for veteran league minimum next year as a backup to Soto and Cronenworth?
No. No, I
No.
don't think so.
Probably not.
We want
No,
to be
it's like,
better, guys. We want to be better.
and we need to be thinking about like not by the way that we have like a great outfield alternative in AAA who's like waiting to come up, but we need to be thinking young for
Yeah.
like our backfill opportunities. It's not just like running the same guys back and expecting the same different results. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like we talked about, you can't send Jurickson Profar down to the minors when he's struggling and let him refine his form. You can't send these
Right.
guys down on the
Right.
veteran minimum deal in their 30s. It's fine to do that when you got a young roster and you need your spots filled with like the Reds do, Will Myers, Tommy Pham, all that. That's fine. But when you've got 4 stars, you need malleable young pieces that are going to learn on the job, and then like Rafi said, backfill. It's the perfect word.
Yeah. From a vibes above Carpenter level, Profar better, but is he like some specific lousy card in Magic the Gathering that is only good if directly linked to another singular card in the deck that you have to pull? Because I mean, if that's the case, fine. If it's like Profar plus Kim or Profar plus Tatis, add plus 12 to the entire team, then okay, all right. Maybe that's the case. But I tend to think that he's just a baseball player and one that's at the end of his career because almost every Major League Baseball player is done by his career at like age 33, age 34. Just like almost everyone's done playing Magic the Gathering by age 33, age 34.
You're gonna get some angry people in the comments.
I
you
just
just
saw
came
two
for-
different people
Yeah.
said this is now an MTG podcast.
You just came
And that
for-
alone.
You just came for a passionate group, Craig.
I keyed.
I called for
These are the
employees to
jokes
be
here.
hung, and that's going to be the most controversial part of our episode today.
Unbelievable. All right, so that's Profar. Come on, let's come up with some new ideas. That's what I'd like. Tevin sent a pretty good post here. Tevin McReynolds says, "I can't join today, but I have a question. Talking about how to break the wheel without breaking the window. This was our discussion topic on Tuesday's show. How do you break the wheel, meaning the constant cycle of trading all of our pitching prospects for 2 years of an established pitcher and then running out of pitching at the end of the year because you traded all of your depth? That's the wheel we want to break. The window we don't want to break is our competitive window where we have 1 or 2 years where we're just bad because we don't have enough pitching in April, never mind September." So with that backdrop, Tevin asks, what do you think of this? Sign one of the Japanese starting pitchers who will be posted and or sign mid-tier starting pitcher free agents without a qualifying offer. Then if they have to trade for another starting pitcher and or first baseman with thump, trade from your position prospects, Zavala, Marcy, Martorella, Pauly, instead of your starting pitching prospects. That way you could reload for 2024, but keep Snelling, Iriarte, and Mazer to go with Avila for depth. I think that's a really wise potential path for the Padres. It's called spending over your mistakes. It's asking Peter Seidler to use the payroll as he did last year with pitchers like Lugo and Waka. We're going to sign some mid-levels to get through. We're going to have the guys we've already attached ourselves to, and we need to do this one more year without trading anyone from our organizational pitching depth. And then by 2025, maybe Snelling, Mazer, Iriarte, Lesko on the fringe, are ready to start contributing to the major league club. And now we have that Dodgers situation where they lose Urias to being an asshole, and Pepio steps in and tries to pitch a perfect game. That's what you're dreaming of, is a situation where you've got guys in the minors that can step in and try and pitch a perfect game. And Padres obviously have instead Jay Groom and Pedro Avila right now.
Not a lot of teams have that luxury. The Mets imploded for the same reason. They didn't have the guys. The Braves have them, the Dodgers have them, the Astros have them, but not many places do. Rays.
Yeah, I'm going to be really intrigued what the Padres end up doing with Graham Pauley because he primarily plays second base and third base, really third base more than anything. Padres are obviously a little log jammed at third base for the next decade. So there isn't really room for him there. Second base, with Cronenworth on the books and potentially Kim, who knows if he gets an extension. Like the infield is really backed up. So any infield prospect that we have that is like an actual dude, which Graham Pauley, he's only 40 value ranked now, but he's had an absolutely monster season. I mean, he has like a 150 WRC plus across multiple levels this year so far. I would not be surprised if the Padres looked into selling high on Graham Pauley as a prospect this year in a package that could bring back some sort of pitcher. And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that. I think if the Padres have, capital to spend in free agency this year, it should almost all go into pitching. Mm-hmm. Like you have Eggy Rosario as a backup that, you don't feel bad about using him as a backup in the infield when you need to give guys days off. In the outfield, you'll either have Soto or they will trade Soto, and then it will be, Jung-Hoo Lee or someone else who comes in. And I'm not really worried about they're not going to make depth buys, I think, for outfield. It's all going to have to go to pitching. I love the idea of bringing in some of the Japanese starting pitchers who are going to hit the market. Yeah, go ahead.
I like one of them. I like Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Absolutely.
But like the MLB free agent, guys, like actual MLB players, there's going to be like 25 of them. So AJ Preller is going to have his pick of 2 or 3 that he likes the best. And I still think that this lineup is one that MLB guys are going to want to come play for. So maybe like Yamamoto from Japan, he's going to be the best one. That's who I'd want from there. I don't think I'd want any of. I've read about the other guys that might post, and they all seem pretty mids and risky.
Yeah, I mean, Yamamoto's also going to, especially with the way that Kodai Senga has played for the Mets this year, Yamamoto's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
The other kind of second-tier guy who the Padres might be interested in is Shota Imanaga. He is a lefty. He doesn't have the strikeout stuff that Yamamoto has, but he is an incredible pitcher. He's thrown 140 innings of a sub-1 WHIP this year so far. His ERA is below 3. He's 278. I really think that he's someone who's going to fetch some interest at potentially a smaller price than Yamamoto. But we have options. We have options even as the domestic starting pitching market starts to get a little bit thin.
Hey, let me just put it this way. 2 years ago, no one was looking at Nick Martinez or Robert Suarez as options in the major leagues, and the Padres found those guys. If you want to give credit to Preller and his staff for anything, give them credit for moves like that a year ago. Yeah, a year ago at this time, no one was like, well, the obvious players that you should go get for the back of your rotation next year are Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo. And yet there they are, and those were both unqualified, successful decisions by AJ Preller. So trust the process. Don't fall into the Troy O'Leary paradox. Don't get the next most expensive thing that's the prettiest thing. Don't be the star effer that you've been to your detriment throughout your career. Trust your process to find the guys who can be the depth at a lesser cost, those B grade guys that you can get at a C grade price. That's the way that you can build the depth in your roster to get through to the point where you can finally let your system do work.
You guys are apt trade from infield, what if like a let's say a number 2 starter comes available with say 3 years of control, kind of like a Savali type, but better than that. Do you trade Jackson Merrill? He's a middle infielder.
No.
Not unless you got another plan for Kim. If you sign Kim, then sure.
Gotcha.
But if you're signing Kim at this point, I think it's for more of the market reasons as much as it is for the baseball reasons.
Talk about vibes, but he's like the best vibes we got.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's like I can squint and close my eyes, and I could see them trading Soto and bringing in Jung-Hoo Lee and signing Kim and having them both there. And at that point, then Jackson Merrill does become fungible in some way, because you're also going to have, we're seeing Jackson Merrill in very AJ Preller-like fashion being just, oh, he's a left fielder today. Oh, he's playing first base. Oh, he's a DH. You know what I mean? It's just like when this guy, every scout says that he'll be able to hold his weight just fine at shortstop, like the toughest position to play. And it's like, let's just like sweep the leg, Johnny, take the value out of there.
And you saw that Tatis went on the record to say he's not going to play catcher. And I was kind of like, that's smart. That's good, Fernando.
Yeah.
You get it out there.
Take one thing off AJ's board.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, we would be silly to move off of Merrill unless we had a very, very good reason. And a very good reason would be extending Ha-Seong Kim, but I am going to stick to what I have said on the record, which is that unless you're signing Jung-Hoo Lee, in which case then it makes sense, you probably shouldn't do that and bring in the guy that everyone says is going to be a great baseball player who's going to be very cheap for you. That's just my thought.
A couple of our big patrons left questions that we can wrap up with. Chiloa asked about using AAA depth in the second half. I think we answered that question pretty early in the show. Brooke grad student says, my question for group therapy this week is, what do you believe San Diego's 10-year plan is at this point? That's a big question.
I have a 4-word answer. The 10-year plan is fuck it, we ball. That's the whole that's the whole plan right now. And again, honestly, this is not groundbreaking, but the plan was we've got 2 shots with a mega team. We've got 2 shots with the 2011 Miami Heat. Let's figure it out the rest later. And we do have this farm system that apparently is strong again, and we'll provide that depth in a few years. I don't think it goes deeper than that. I don't think that there's some weird thing that we're not seeing. I think it's that shallow.
Yeah, the 10-year plan is to win with Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Xander Bogaerts, because they're going to be on the team all 10 years for the next 10 years. And there's no other team in baseball that you can say that about, that you're like, these obvious players will be here the entire time, barring something massive and catastrophic. These 3 players are going to be here the entire time. So the idea is to win around these 3 players and continuously build around these 3 players. And then when the first 2 start to decline, it's to build around the decline of those players, and that's how they've got to do it. I think the short-term version of it is what we've talked about. They mortgaged everything for this run. You're 100% right, Rafi. They're seeing the downside risk this year. So then it becomes do we break the wheel and spend through the next 2 years to get to the point where our farm system can take over for the spending? Or do we just keep going and trade everyone that we've developed the last 2 years to get another set of expensive top of the rotation style pitchers, and we just do it all again and really put the risk to 2026 and beyond for being like not good years? This is an argument that H.J. Preller and Tevin and others have been having in the Discord for a while. There's all this talk about all in. I always push back against that. I always say all in is a tournament poker move where when you lose your stack, you get up.
Yep.
And no one expects the Padres to do anything. No one should expect the Padres to do anything where if they lose in 2024, they get up.
Yeah.
And then they don't try again. Like they're going to keep trying.
You said the loyal are all in.
That is it.
That's the only
That's
team
the
that you
one
can-
team.
Yeah.
Sign anyone. Go see if Zlatan wants to play for a month. You're all in. The day you're eliminated, your team goes away.
Yeah.
And then everyone goes somewhere else. Until that, you're not all in.
And that's why I can't be too mad about that 10-year plan, as statistically ruinous it could potentially be. We get to see 3 superstars, at least stars, 2 superstars and a star for 10 years in San Diego. And the Padres broke face so badly for so much of my life in that you would not get to see the same players. We had Tony Gwynn, and that was a great example to set when I was growing up. But after he left, it was ugly for a long, 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 long time. So having guys that kids can buy the jersey, watch play for their club as they grow up, I think I still like it, even though it might suck.
Well, Rafe, I think we've hit the end of it. We've hit the hour mark.
One more thing. Thank you, Carson. Thank you, Carson. That was very nice.
Absolutely. Hey, we got 2 tips today.
I don't get it, but I love it. I like it.
I'm intrigued.
I did like that our only viewer that came up on the stage was wearing glasses. The streak remains unbroken.
It's a low-key requirement, apparently.
Yeah.
For modern Padres hot tub. Healing Cal said we should have addressed Tatis playing at second yesterday. He's taking ground balls there the entire year.
Yeah.
He's taking ground balls at shortstop and second base the entire year. So he's always been an emergency option at second base. My understanding of the game mechanic yesterday, which I was not paying attention to, was that kind of an emergency option arose where he needed to go to second base, and he did. So cool. It's on his strat card now. Somebody next year in a Stratomatic tournament is drafting him to play second base full time every game.
Sure. No doubt. I wish he could get to 10 for fantasy. Then
right?
I know,
Exactly.
I know.
Just play there for 9 more days, would you? And Tatis moves back into the first round for next year. Amazing stuff. Well, hey, thanks to everybody for watching. We've had a good crowd that's gathered for our first ever Padres Hot Tub live stream on YouTube. We're going to see how many more of these we want to do, or if this becomes a regular feature of Padres Hot Tub going forward with the main show as well. So, we're in that September experimental phase. We're going to have Tatis batting left-handed. We're going to put Jackson Merrill at first base. We're going to figure out what's going on. We're not going to do any of those things. Those are bad ideas. But we will stream on YouTube and see if this is a great path forward. Thank you to everybody for supporting us. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. If you want to support this group directly and efficiently, that is the way to do it. And until then,